Our scripture today is from Luke chapter 24. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, the women took the spices they had prepared and went to the tomb. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb. But when they entered, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. While they were wondering about this, suddenly two men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood beside them. In their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground, but the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen. Remember how he told you while he was still with you in Galilee? The Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men, be crucified, and on the third day be raised again." Then they remembered his words. When they came back from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and to all the others. It was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the others with them who told this to the apostles. But they did not believe the women because their words seemed to them like nonsense. Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb. Bending over, he saw the strips of linen lying by themselves, and he went away wondering to himself what had happened. Now, that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" They stood still, their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you the only person, like a visitor to Jerusalem, and do not know the things that have happened there in these days?" "What things?" he asked. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priest and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place. In addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning but did not find his body, and they came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but him they did not see." He said to them, "How foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Christ have to suffer these things and then enter his glory?" And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus acted as if he were going farther. But they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. They asked each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us?" There's a story about a king who decided to set aside a special day to honor his great subjects. And he was looking for the greatest subject of all. When the big day arrived, there was a large gathering in the palace courtyard. 4 finalists were brought forward, and from these 4 the king would select the winner. The first person that was presented was a wealthy philanthropist. The king was told that this man was highly deserving of the honor because of his humanitarian efforts. He had given much of his wealth to the poor. The second person was a celebrated physician. The king was told that this doctor was highly deserving of the honor because he had rendered faithful and dedicated service to the sick for many years. The third person was a distinguished judge. The king was told that the judge was worthy because he was noted for his wisdom, his fairness, and his brilliant decisions. The fourth person presented was an elderly woman. Everyone was quite surprised to see her there because her manner was quite humble, as was her dress. She hardly looked the part of someone who would be honored as the greatest subject in the kingdom. What chance could she possibly have when compared to the other three who had accomplished so much? Even so, there was something about her, the look of love in her face, the understanding in her eyes, and her quiet confidence. The king was intrigued, to say the least, somewhat puzzled by her presence. He asked who she was. The answer came, "You see the philanthropist? You see the doctor? You see the judge? Well, she was their teacher." That woman had no wealth, no fortune, no title, but she had unselfishly given her life to produce great people. There is nothing more powerful or more Christ-like than sacrificial love. Now the king could not see the value in the humble lady. He missed the significance of the teacher. And you know, often we miss the value of those around us. It would surprise us to know how often we miss the presence of Christ, just as Cleopas and his brother missed the significance of that stranger on the road to Emmaus. We must ask ourselves the question, who are we overlooking today? You know, during this COVID-19 coronavirus quarantine and many other names that I can't repeat that people are calling it, I have noticed things I've never noticed before. You know, it slows us all down a bit, and we begin to see the robins working diligently on the nest and taking care of the eggs. We perhaps have noticed neighbors we never saw before, or we saw patterns of their behavior we never observed. We may have noticed the new buds coming out in the trees, or perhaps even noticed just simply railroad ties, or bushes and birds of many different kinds we had never noticed before. The list could go on. Also, perhaps you have noticed new things about yourself, your likes and dislikes, others around us, the way people are creating their own style of masks that we'd never seen before. The way people that I've never met say hello just to have a connection with another human being. Perhaps it's across the alleyway or down at the other end of the post office. Or maybe you've began to know how food tastes especially good when it's scarcer to get hold of. And we aren't even going to mention toilet paper. You know, we may want to squeeze the Charmin, but right now people are fighting over any kind of toilet paper. We value things more when we pay closer attention to them. And right now in our world, it is as though COVID-19 has enabled us to take a closer look at everything and everyone differently. For some, it has meant finding more to gripe about and to worry about. But for many, however, it has meant finding more to cherish about our communities, about our relationships, paying more attention to the little things, realizing that little things matter. You know, often as human beings, we can get streamlined into seeing only one way. People call it a rut sometimes. Seeing only certain people, seeing only from one perspective, as though we all wear a certain prescription glasses for the way we view the world and each other. We all view the world through our own unique set of lenses. Like any lens, it is selective. It helps us to view things in the way we are used to seeing them. Now, if you wear glasses or contact lenses like I do, think of how the world looks different when you have them off. You feel you can't see things clearly. For some, you may notice things look a little fuzzier or stranger. But put those glasses back on and the world comes into focus. However, one day, you go to the optometrist and discover that you haven't been seeing as well as you thought you were. The doctor changes the lenses, and suddenly things come into a sharper view. You notice things you were missing. The world as you see it changes. I think that we can develop a new set of eyes as the years go by. In our study, in our discipleship, and we can get a second sight that enables us to weather the storms of the world and to begin to see Jesus appearing to us in ways we may have just missed before. So today we must ask ourselves the question, who are we overlooking today? Who is around us in our daily routines? Who is in our circle of friends that perhaps we're communicating with now online rather than in person? Who is it that we have really not paid enough attention to? And then we must ask ourselves the question, are we willing to begin to see the value of those around us? Are we able to open our eyes and look into and study those people and what real value they have? Perhaps now that worker at McDonald's, we can see much more of the value of that person than before. Perhaps that custodian that keeps the office clean, perhaps it's the parking attendant, whoever it is, and perhaps it's those that live closest to us. We need to learn to see the value of those around us. And then, most importantly, begin to open our eyes and see the presence of Christ. To begin to look in those areas where we did not expect to see Him. To begin to look into the Scriptures where it says, as you have done it unto the least of these, you have done it to me. And it also says, as you have not done it to the least of these, you have not done it unto me. So perhaps during this time of this unusual predicament that we find ourselves in this world, perhaps rather than it just being a predicament, perhaps it is now one of the best opportunities that we as a whole body of humanity perhaps have, that we have discovered we are now much more in common than before because we're all dealing with this together. And perhaps we can now begin to look with a new set of eyes and take this opportunity for each of us to gain a new vision for ourselves, for those around us, for the world and other human beings, and most of all, a new vision for Christ. May God bless you. Thank you for coming to our channel each day on the Daily Dose. Thank you for visiting our websites. Thank you for your generous support that makes this possible to keep going. And thank you so much for being who you are. We do value you, and we know that God has a particular value for you. He has created you. He's given you a unique set of fingerprints to remind you that no one can take your place. Now, claim your value and open your eyes that we all may see with new vision.
When blossoms flowered amid the snow, upon the winter's night, was born the child, the Christmas rose, the King of love and light. The angels sang, the shepherds sung, the grateful earth rejoiced, and at his blessed birth the stars in exultation voiced. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Holy night, the stars are brightly shining. This is the night of the dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared and the soul fell
May the birth, life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, a journey from Christmas to Easter, give you a new vision to prepare you for life here and eternity. God bless you.